So you get a customer inquiry and they're excited to talk to you about your business. They want you to come out and do some work with them, and they're messaging you and communicating with you and emailing you faster than you can respond. And then finally, you send them the price. And crickets. Hey everybody, this is Cam. I'm glad you tuned in. We're going to talk about pricing in this edition of Immortal Branding, and really look at how price and branding really go hand in hand, because price is one of the 4 P's of marketing. And so if you have a product, service, experience, or anything that you create that has value, you have to assign a price to it so that that value can be quantified for an external audience. You can't just keep making up prices in your head. You need to be able to write them down, justify them, and understand what goes into that. Price is an important dimension of any product because it reflects what its true value is for you, and it also reflects what its true value is for the person who's going to acquire that product or service. Sometimes price is elevated simply as a matter of status. And when you have a strong brand, you can create a price that is higher than what the market actually will bear because you have demand for it. And when you can do demand pricing, you're in a very favorable position. And that means you have to create a strong brand, you have to have strong results, strong testimonials, strong audience, and a strong repertoire of skills that allow you to do so. A lot of times, though, there are prices that are based on just what the traditional market can have. And that means that if there are lots of players in the market, then you can end up having commoditization of your product or service because so many people are in your market. It creates a perception that what you're doing should be lower. I was recently watching a podcast about pricing, and the author of the podcast, and you have to forgive me because I forget his name, but the author of the podcast gave a great example of pricing on 3 different tiers of a simple product, a t-shirt. So when you think about t-shirts, for example, if you go to Walmart and you get Fruit of the Loom or Hanes, they tend to come in a packet of plenty of t-shirts, maybe 5, 6 different t-shirts in one packet. And those t-shirts are about $5.99, $6.99. If you know the price, put it in the comments. But they're not super expensive. They're not like $10 for the packet of t-shirts, because t-shirts are common things that people wear, men, women, children. They're easy to produce. They're economical to produce. They don't require any special materials necessarily to produce. And this is something that we've been doing as humans for decades. So it's not a whole new science that needs to be created to produce a t-shirt. So you can buy them at considerable volume and get them at a very low price. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so there are providers who provide those t-shirts to the market, and there are people who want those t-shirts economically at that price. And then you step up to the next tier of t-shirts, and that next tier of t-shirts could be something like a Calvin Klein t-shirt. I have Calvin Klein undershirts on, if you're curious, by the way. Those t-shirts come 2 in a pack most often, and they're super more costly, or the price higher than Fruit of the Loom or Hanes. Tommy John's has similar brand, and they are a much more comfortable shirt. They hug you. It's a different material, but fundamentally it's still a t-shirt. But because Calvin Klein has a different brand identity and a different attraction to people for their brand than, say, Fruit of the Loom or more for a Hanes t-shirt, then they're going to get a little bit more money for them. And plus, with Calvin Klein t-shirts, you may wear the t-shirt as the shirt, whereas you're probably not going to wear your fold up Fruit of the Loom shirt, thusly. But then there's another tier of t-shirts. So let's take for men's clothing, Rag and Bone. Rag and Bone makes some t-shirts. Bugatti makes some t-shirts. There are t-shirts made by luxury brands like Versace. And those t-shirts can cost you anywhere from $100 to $250. Now, keep in mind, it is still a t-shirt. Doesn't do anything, it doesn't wake you up in the morning, but it is priced at a much higher tier. One, because they may use finer materials that have been sourced from very unique locations and because of the thread count in that fiber and the textiles that they use, that you're going to have a very different texture and a different feel to that material. And plus, it's going to have some unique design about it that makes it Rag and Bone, that makes it Versace, that makes it the high-end brand that it is. And so you spend more for it. And each case, we have the same commodity, but that commodity is priced differently because there is brand value associated with that price. And this is so important when you have somebody inquire about what your price is. If they go ghost on you or you start hearing crickets from the feedback, don't worry about it, because your price is reflective of your brand's value. I saw someone recently asked for a recommendation for a photographer in the North Texas area, and someone else responded to that comment saying, well, what's your budget? And the reality is, who cares what the budget is? You need to know what your price is, because your price doesn't come down based on someone else's budget. Either they can adjust their budget to match your price and services and get the full repertoire of capabilities that you have, or they can't. But if your price is so flexible that you can work with anybody's budget, then I would assert that you don't actually have a price. And because you don't have a price, you don't know your value. And so you really need to recognize that budgets and price are two separate things. The price is what it is, and that's how much it costs. And you either have to develop a budget that can afford that price, or you have to find other alternatives that meet your budget. But the price doesn't have to change. And so make sure that as you think about what type of brand you are, it doesn't matter if you're in a market where there are multiple players. Set your price that reflects the value that you are. When Mercedes didn't stop selling cars just because Kia wanted to start selling luxury cars. You don't see Chevrolet stop selling Cadillacs because Hyundai wanted to create a Genesis brand to create a new tier of luxury cars for consumers. It doesn't matter how many players are in a market. If you can't differentiate your product, service, or experience to reflect its price in the market, then you probably shouldn't be there. And so think about that as you're thinking about how pricing reflects your brand value and how you are pre-qualifying your client based on the things that they're going to get as a result of investing and doing business with you. So marinate on that, and I thank you for your time, your attention, and listening, and we'll talk again about new topics in Immortal Branding. Take care, guys.